Hi, Vincent.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Oh, good, good. I was talking to somebody I actually have met more than once at Speaker's Corner, and he's always complaining about being poor. And obviously, he also hates secular Koranism. But he did sign me up when I explained to him my policy of dealing with the elderly. And this accommodating them and turning them living exhibits near museums um, of social history and psychology.
Okay, we can. I'm just making
We
myself some coffee.
okay. Do you need time to think about it and ask questions, or shall I just continue explaining
No,
the idea to you?
yeah, I'll continue explaining the idea.
So, because many of us now um, do not have children or are not on good terms with them, um, uh, they, I guess they don't particularly care about their children, and so they would happily spend the house that they own on boutique care homes and stuff. So I've noticed this is something um, that somebody I know has been complaining about, that he will be left with nothing when his parents have come and gone. And he feels sad about it, and he feels sad that his grandfather did not quite manage to hold on to the family farm. Um, but with inheritance tax the way it is, how can anyone hold on to anything? It begins at 40%. So I am suggesting that Islamic inheritance rules would um, do the trick, but then everyone is so Islamophobic. And also, a lot of people, atheists in particular, don't like thinking of their death, making preparations for it through writing a will and stuff like that. Um, So I was thinking, if secular Quranism made a point of thinking about these things on behalf of those people who don't want to think about these things, it might get more traction. And uh, it occurs to me that um, gay people would be under the group of non-parents who, might be wondering how they're going to spend their twilight years. So this is something I remember from the Imperial War Museum when um, I visited some years ago, and they have this idea of a living exhibit. So they have someone there, and the children loved it, asking him all kinds of questions, what it was like to dig for victory, what it was like during World War II, basically, when, that was one of the slogans of World War II, that you would dig for victory after digging up your garden, which used to be full of, pretty things like flowers and plant um, vegetables in them. Um, so um, he was there to tell us how things were. And one of the questions I asked him was how he thought of society then and how he thought of society now. And this was in the, um, I think, noughties, maybe. Yeah. And to my surprise, he was saying it was a terribly divided society, and the children of I don't know if you've heard of evacuation, which is basically when London was being bombed by um, the Nazis. Um, they had to be evacuated for their own safety, and they were sent to the countryside, and people who owned homes and had spare accommodation were expected to accommodate these evacuees, and they weren't very happy about that because they basically thought of these children as slum children, and and probably these slum children didn't behave very well. And if you read any of the stories of the Just William books, you will discover that they didn't, there were very rigid class differences, and they were. Basically, they basically hated each other. So I guess I understood what he meant about the class hatreds and class divisions when most people in Britain were white and Christian. But basically, they hated each other, and that was what he meant. And he seemed to think that it was an improvement now. Obviously, it's subjective, but anyway, I thought it was very interesting that he clearly lived through the experience, and well, he lived to talk about it and tell us all about it, and it was very interesting. And I thought, well, why not make use of old people who love to tell their stories, and let young people and social historians and psychologists make a study of these people prepared to make an exhibit of themselves. And I was wondering, Vincent, if you'd be prepared to make an exhibit of yourself.
No, I don't want to become an exhibit. I don't want to become an
But you'd be
exhibit.
such a great exhibit.
Huh?
You'd be very popular as an exhibit. And I think you'd just love it too. I think you'd love it.
Maybe. Maybe. Well, anyway, we have to ask Grok to make a pamphlet, correct? But then we need to update your. You don't listen to me, Claire. I told you. You're like, what do we need a third definition for? You wanna. It's like instead of making amendments, you just make an updated edition of your definition for Grok to work on.
I don't know how to do that. So you have to give me the prompts.
No, I gave you. You have the definition. You just need to increase the definition. You just need to. You just need to like. You just need to finesse the definition. It's not that hard. It's those bullet points on the website. Just go to at the top of the Secular Koranism website. It's a second definition of Secular Koranism. You click on that. You see all the definition of what Secular Koranism is. You just need to tweak that and make it better.
What and start a new thing. Okay.
You just need to edit it, and you need to edit and clean it up and all that other stuff. But I don't know why that's beyond you, Claire.
Because I've never done it before. Okay, I'll have to another look at.
It's your ideology.
Secular Koranism blog. Okay, first definition, blah blah blah, and then second.
At the top, at the very top, doesn't it say second definition of Secular Koranism?
Yes. So basically,
click on
then
that.
what do I do?
Click on it. Okay, and then there it is. So what do you want me to add, subtract, increase, improve? What, like, you have to, add, subtract, improve.
Okay, okay, I want to have a policy of what to do with the elderly. So, okay, do I need a third definition just to do that?
No, you don't. But I'm saying that eventually, if you want, this. Okay, so okay. Using all the data you have so far on the Secular Koranist Party of America, write a detailed pamphlet on how the party will deal with older people who have no children and cannot take care of themselves. Older people will be housed in living museum where they can be questioned by the general public as well as sociologists and psychologists. What else?
Um, let me find the tweet I tweeted with. So okay, so he's this guy who go to Speaker's Corner and he said, "Oh, it sounds like Speaker's Corner. Sign me up." He actually said that. Um, and then let me see. Let me just find that tweet. Hmm. Oh, I wish I wouldn't tweet so much now. I can't find it. Um, I think I just need to scroll down. It's just being a bit slow. So I said they would be accommodated near all these centres in almshouses, near these, museums of social history and psychology dotted around all the country, up and down the country. And the purpose of this is to, make sure that if you're not completely gaga and you can remember why, how things were in the swinging 60s, 70s, etc. Um, and well, you can, explain yourself to, anybody who's interested in the 60s, 70s, etc. So that was how it was supposed to work. So I said, you'll be put on a raised platform where school children, undergraduates, and graduates will ask you questions about your experiences of life in the relevant decades and your political views. Your contemporaries will also be allowed to heckle and question you. All these exchanges will be recorded for posterity. Tea will be made for you and snacks provided. Your accommodation will be near those various museums up and down the country, rather like almshouses. And then he said, "It sounds like Speaker's Corner with free tea provided. Sign me up."
Okay. So, using all the data you have so far in Secular Koranism, Party of America, write a detailed pamphlet on how the party will deal with older people who have no children, and cannot take care of themselves. Older people with no children cannot take care of themselves will be housed near living museums where they can be questioned by the general public as well as sociologists and psychologists. Um, um, is that it? Can we just prompt it that? Is that enough?
Probably. I mean, unless you feel you want to add something.
Um, these museums of living history will be built all around the country. Okay. Let's say, okay, it's thinking. on. Okay, hold on. Hold on 1 second. Okay, hold on. Okay, I've sent it.
Okay. Childless elderly. Below is a detailed party pamphlet from the Secular Koranist Party of America, SKPA, outlining how the party will address the needs of older people with no children who cannot care for themselves, incorporating all the data provided on secular Koranism, its definitions, laws, the Secular Koranist Constitution, the SKPA Party Constitution, the SKPA Manifesto, and prior pamphlets. The pamphlet describes the housing of these individuals near living museums where they can be questioned by the public and social scientists, and announces the construction of museums nationwide, aligning with the party's focus on order, wisdom, and societal contribution. Secular Koranist Party of America, SKPA, caring for our elders, a new future for the childless and frail. To the citizens of the United States, the Secular Koranist Party of America is committed to a disciplined, wise, and orderly society under the Secular Koranist Constitution effective since March 10, 2025. We announce a compassionate yet practical solution for older individuals, aged 65 and above, who have no children and cannot care for themselves. These citizens will be housed near living museums of history where they can be questioned by the general public and studied by sociologists and psychologists. New museums will be constructed across the country to facilitate this program, ensuring our elders contribute to society while receiving care. This initiative, rooted in Claire Core's agnostic vision, builds on our Department for the Elderly and aligns with our secular Koranist Caliphate global leadership. Here's how it works and why it matters. The challenge of childless, frail elders. As America thrives under secular Koranism, no usually cutting debt 30% at a 20% flat rate, funding socialized medicine and crime down 50%, we face a growing concern. Older citizens with no children to support them, with 18% of our population over 65 and social shifts reducing birth rates. Many lack family care. Our current system, militia oversight, state clinics, serves all, but the childless and frail need a tailored approach. This program ensures their dignity and utility. The Living Museums of History program. The SKPA introduces the Living Museums of History, a nationwide network of facilities to house and engage these elders. Who qualifies? Citizens aged 65 plus with no children, verified via the State Registry of Races and Religions, and unable to care for themselves, assessed by social workers per the slave visitor model. Housing. They will reside in state-funded apartments adjacent to each museum, providing shelter, meals funded by the flat tax, and basic care via socialized medicine. Purpose: to integrate them into society as living resources, questioned by the public for wisdom, studied by researchers, and contributing to our data-driven future. Key features: public interaction. Visitors, families, school groups, tourists can engage with elders in museum exhibits, asking about pre-2025 life, for example, debt struggles, family dynamics. Example, in Harmony's Museum, a 72-year-old IC1 white Hiloni shares tales of cultural Judaism, delighting IC3 black teens from A schools. Research by sociologists and psychologists. Social scientists under Beyondism, Raymond Cattell, study elderly problem solving, health and social outcomes tracked via the registry. Example, a 68-year-old IC6 Muslim's longevity data informs socialized medicine improvements, boosting our 40% education rise. Nationwide construction. New museums will rise in every state. For example, Montana, New Harmony, New York, Borough Park, California, Los Angeles, funded by the flat tax, completed by 2027. Example, Los Angeles' museum will feature IC4 Asian elders mentoring youth in the mandatory volunteering work service. 14 to 18, 20 hours weekly. Why this matters. Dignity and contribution. Elders without children often face isolation. Our museums give them purpose. Quran, chapter 2, verse 256, no compulsion ensures voluntary participation. They choose to engage. Wisdom preservation. Their stories, no pre-usury debt, pre-caliphate chaos, educate, aligning with the Department for the Elderly and Department of Wisdom. Data-driven progress. Beyondism tracks outcomes, elderly stats. For example, IC6 Arabs Business Insights guide policies, reinforcing our 60% global adoption by 2040. Social cohesion, public interaction and mentoring. For example, advising youth on logic, morality, bridge generations, reducing crime 50% down, and fostering unity. No hide routes, Public Law 102 to 14, Roots America and no hide laws, justice, community, caring for the childless aligns with this, secular rise for all. Addressing concerns, some may ask, is this exploitation? What if they refuse? Here's the truth. Voluntary participation. Elders can opt out. Housing is mandatory for the frail, but museum roles are pro-choice. Per Quran chapter 2, verse 256. Well, I would actually say if you don't participate, you will have an inferior form of accommodation.
What it said, those who don't participate get no accommodations? Is that what it said?
No, inferior accommodation.
I know, but what did they say for those who don't participate? What are you correcting in the pamphlet? What did the pamphlet say?
It's talking about housing is mandatory for the frail, but museum roles are per choice. Elders opt out. So basically, if you're not part of the living exhibit scheme, your accommodation will be not as good as the accommodation given by, elders.
Claire, they were talking about people who are too frail to work, not. So somebody becomes too frail to work, you're gonna lower their accommodation.
Well, what if they're gaga and can't, have a sensible conversation because they've lost their
So you're gonna
marble?
lower the people. Claire, this is so like East Asian credit card, credit system. Like, you don't, if you're this, you don't get. It's just, I don't know, Claire. If that's the way you want it to go. Then so it was too nice for you. This pamphlet was too nice for you. You wanted to be more draconian.
No, I just want to make it clear because otherwise people will just think, let's just carry on not having any children because we'll all be accommodated equally. No, we're only going to, give it to, deserving people who can have their, basically they would They would be compass mentis, they would be articulate, they would be willing participants who don't mind being questioned about their lives and experiences. And this is, quite special because not many people can bear that kind of scrutiny.
Okay. Well, I think it was
Well, I mean,
talk.
you can't
Didn't
just
it?
sort of
Wait.
take.
Didn't it only say people who were too feeble? It didn't say like. Didn't it say that those who were too feeble wouldn't have to participate in the program?
I didn't say that.
What
I
did
don't
it
remember.
say? Who? What did it say? Read it again. What did you object to?
I am saying that only the elderly who join this scheme, who are prepared to make an exhibition of themselves, and these are, not many people are prepared to do that, are they? Because you kind of said, I'm not sure I want to do that. But I'm just saying, I see you as somebody who would love to do that, even though, maybe
Okay.
modesty forbids you from saying that. But I think you would enjoy it. But I already factored in the fact that not many people would want to do it, to have their entire lives questioned. What did you do during the 70s? Are you one of those boomers who left everything in a mess? I'm sure Carol would be happy to do it, but not everybody is us, right? I mean, some people will just probably go to pieces at the idea that they're going to have their motives and their entire lives examined. I mean, they'd have to say, like, so don't blame me just because I'm a boomer. What did you expect me to do? Start a revolution? Because I know that these days, the younger generation just, feel that it's a required ritual to shake their fist at boomers. And I genuinely want to know what they would have done that was different if they had grown up in those times. I mean, obviously, they weren't going to start a revolution because they had a comfortable life. And if your generation doesn't respect your parents' generation, well, you obviously have issues because you think, oh, but for you, we wouldn't be, in this mess of, being swamped by immigration or whatever it is that you blame your parents for. But these things need to be examined, and you have yourself pointed out that you can't really engage with your parents on that because um, they'd be offended or hurt or something. So I'm not saying many people are, many of our elderly are capable of that, and probably quite a few of them might not be compos mentis anyway. If they take too much drugs, I mean, you're not going to get a sensible conversation out of them. So they can't participate. You have to be able and willing to participate. It's not for anyone.
Is that what the pamphlet suggested? That they're going to just hand out handouts to people who don't participate in the program?
Well, I mean, okay,
Is
I
that what the
have no.
pamphlet said? Is that what the pamphlet said? That if you don't want to do it, you get goods anyway? Is that what the pamphlet said?
I don't know. I
What was
mean,
your?
okay,
I don't
this
understand
is
what the. I don't understand what.
voluntary participation. Elders can opt out. Housing is mandatory for the frail, but museum roles are by choice.
Okay, you don't want that. Okay.
No, I mean, I just wanted to clarify. Obviously, the elderly are not going to be, left to starve on the streets, but there will be a difference between people who are willing and able to participate in the scheme and those who are not. And obviously, if you are able and willing to participate in this scheme, you should be treated better and given better accommodation than those who are not. Surely, that's
Okay,
only
so
fair.
then okay, so I'll fix that in the pamphlet.
Okay.
Okay, wait, hold on, wait.
Shall I not? Shall I finish reading the rest?
Yeah, sure.
Respectful care. No coercion A flat tax and no usury economy ensure their needs are met. Social workers monitor, like with Christian Scientist kids. Debated. File with the Department of Complaints and Suggestions. This feels forced and debated on state TV via the Department for Debate. We refine through reason. So, it's like it's not the end of the world. It's going to be debated. Join the Living History movement. On June 12, 2025, the Living Museums of History program launches. Register. Elders, 65 plus, no children, frail. Sign up at SKPA offices. Housing and role options assigned. Engage. Public. Visit museums. Researchers that study data. Youth. Seek advice. Build. Museums rise by 2027. Your tax funds a wiser future. Their core is secular Koranism. Law, not faith, values all. From harmony to the SKEU, let's honor our elders and grow strong together. For wisdom, for order, for progress, Secular Koranist Party of America. June 12, 2025.
What is today? June 12th. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's going to happen. These riots are starting to happen. Well, what are you going to do when there's riots under secular Koranism?
Well, the whole idea is that it would be a more stable society. And okay, I'm saying basically that matriarchy is unstable by definition because, it's run on a, tissue of lies. Because, eventually people are going to realize that, it's like, hey, women see things in a different way to men. So why should everything be geared to their preference? And then men are the muscle anyway, so we don't have to take all this crap from, silly women, right? So even in a matriarchy, the idea is that, the matriarchy still gets muscle from men, who are the ones joining the armed forces and the police and, whatnot. So, or, who are the laborers in agriculture, all these things that they still work in construction. Men's labor is still required. And if you don't respect that, then you're going to get trouble. And eventually, even though, people are very dim these days, that they will realize that, if you don't address their grievances, if you show no signs of wanting to address them, they'll just fester and grow, and eventually they'll think, well, why don't we just overthrow the system? We are the muscle anyway. And as for the riots, if I wanted to organize a riot, a revolution, we all know it's like it's not like I have any specialized knowledge. We all know that these revolutions that we've heard of, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, they started in the summer because it's easy to get people to come out and do stuff when the weather's warm. And I guess the people who don't like Trump are I imagine they're going to organize all kinds of, displays of public disorder in the blue states and then say, oh, it's Trump. He made us do this. So actually, I haven't been following it properly. So has it spread to other states?
I imagine it's starting to, yeah. So it's not as bad in other states, but it's starting to spread there.
Yeah, so Trump, this would give him the perfect, opportunity to come down hard on them like a ton of bricks and really crush them and send the National Guard here and the National Guard there and then conduct a purge of the judiciary and the police and the armed forces and the State Department and the all these government departments. I don't know why he hasn't done it now. Maybe he's actually waiting for them to try something and then, crush them. Well, I hope he's going to do it. Otherwise, it's just stupid. And then, and now this is talk about, is something going to happen with Iran? Is America going to bomb Iran? and start World
Yeah, I
War
don't know how
Three.
that. Yeah, wasn't last week we're going to give Iran nuclear weapons and all this stuff? What happened to that? I'm confused. Was I
So am I.
did I
So,
dream
so
that? What wasn't he just in bed with Iran last week?
look, I don't even know, and I've noticed a silence on, from the channels that I follow, like the Duran and the Gaggle. That I think they're confused too. It's like, well, we don't know now. We thought we were the experts, but we don't know what's happening. So I'm not going to comment. And even I mean, like I think it was 2 weeks ago, that it's like World War Three is going to blow because Ukraine, destroyed all these nuclear assets of the Russian, and they couldn't have done it without help by NATO and America. And it's like, oh, this will mean that the Russians will have to go nuclear, and no, everybody just carried on as if it were normal because it was the way the media reported it. I mean, I don't think they even reported it properly. So nobody reacted, and they just carried on booking their holidays and shit. So unfortunate. Okay. What we know now is that for people to have the appropriate reaction, they have to hear it from CNN, the president, BBC, or whatever it is. And if it's just random YouTube channels, they're not going to react. If it's from some foreign news agency, they're not going to react. They're
Claire,
just
I don't think you understand everything about how Westerners think. I mean, we're not like you in that everything is hierarchy. Like, sometimes in the West, things start at the bottom, like the underclass starts it. Like, it doesn't, like, we're not so much like, oh, you're a nobody. Like, we're a little bit more individualistic, and we believe the individual has power. And, like, the individual, yes, it doesn't matter if you're not the Queen of England. Like, you can still run a revolution. Your voice counts. Like, you're so dismissive of that Western value. You so like just run roughshod over it. You treat people like garbage. You don't have that individualist Western spirit. Like, I'm a person all the way at the bottom, and I am a nobody, but I can do this. Like, you have none of that in
what do you
you.
think I'm doing?
You have none of that. You have no appreciation for that Western understanding of getting things done and shaping and changing politics. Margaret Sanger was a nobody who had nothing, and she, yeah, all by herself, not with media, not with the media was against her, the government was against her. It wasn't like she had all this power. She just stood up and did it, and she got on the soapbox, and people listened because she was impassionate and because she was talking about facts. Like, you're so dismissive. It's just
I'm
like
not being.
you
What do you think I'm doing?
well, obviously you don't, I don't know,
I,
you
I'm
don't,
I'm kind of doing things a Margaret Sanger way, aren't I?
well, you don't
I'm
seem to give anyone
nobody.
else, you don't seem to give anyone else any credit and ability to do this. And also it's just, I'm not like that. I don't just listen to Fox News and CNN. I go and research things. And if I find someone online who can prove something, I don't care if they have 50 million followers on YouTube. I listen to truth. Like, there are people out there that listen to the truth no matter who is saying it. It does exist.
Okay, well, I know, but there are very few of them, and the rest of them are cattle.
Okay,
And
well,
you say also,
I don't
so
want to think, well, if people are the way you're suggesting them, then I don't really care about them. That kind of like gets you to the point that you stop caring about people if people are such stupid, useless cattle like that. If you describe people as too,
you yourself admitted that they are like that.
well, then, I mean, I don't need that reinforced. And I've also said, like, yes, that's very black pilling. What are you fighting for? If everyone's a piece of shit, what the fuck are you fighting for? If
For the
every single
principle of the thing.
yeah, but who? Yeah, but what? If nobody's worth getting up fighting for, why should I get out of my bed and fight for people if there's nobody there? If I don't have anyone to fight for what? I don't. For what? For what? Why am I going to exert that energy and go
Okay.
get myself killed? Why should I get my leg blown off for who?
Well, you're not exactly going to get your legs blown up, but it's for the
Well, it
principle
could.
of the thing. Because,
Yeah,
has
but
been said,
you
psychology is a
have to have,
vocation.
it takes more than that. I mean, look, people get tired. People get tired of ideals. If your ideals are making you exhausted and robbing you of your energy and all this other kind of stuff, and there's no one there to help you and nobody cares, nobody appreciates it, that's
But
not
we still
human
do it.
nature.
I guess we still do it because we can't stop ourselves, right?
That's not human nature. Human nature is to get tired, to need validation. That's human nature, to need validation, to need a reason. If your mother's a scumbag, your father's a scumbag, why defend the family farm if they treated you like shit your whole life and they're just garbage people, garbage dump people, garbage pail people? What is the point? Why would you fight for the family farm? I would leave the family farm and say, see you later. I'm going to go to the city and live out the rest of my life an easy way. And you can fight for this farm because you're not worth fighting for. Neither is the farm, which is full of, that doesn't even grow anything. Poor soil, clay soil and shit people. What are you going to do? Fight for that?
Well, you have to fight for the principle of the thing, which is why it's so important to have religion. Otherwise, it's like, well, I'm only going to do it if I like you, and then you find that most people are treacherous and unreliable. I mean, this is the reality. Even your nearest and dearest, they're not that reliable. They don't always agree with you.
No, but humans have a responsibility to be desirable. You have a responsibility for, you can't just be a piece of shit and then expect your children to come and defend what you built. Like you have a responsibility to be likable, to be a desirable human being that somebody wants to fight for. You know what I mean? You have a responsibility and you do. And if you do not fulfill that responsibility, you're not going to get respect and your children are not going to defend what you built. And that's it. You can't, it's impossible. You either become a desirable human being or you lose everything. There's no in between. There's no this, there's no that. You do it or you don't. And don't go blaming anyone else just because you're a piece of shit.
Hmm.
You can't go blaming your children because you're an undesirable human being. You know what I mean? You can. You can. The children of the boomers don't want to uphold what the boomers built. They were horrible. They were horrible what they built. Yeah, they built nice things. Good. I don't need a huge nice house. We could have lived in humble houses. We didn't need boats. You don't need a fucking yacht, all this other shit. You know what I mean? Like, nice, clean, small houses and nice, clean, small yards and farms. And that's what people need, not being a piece of shit and then saying, why aren't you upholding? Yeah, okay. Now you built all these skyscrapers and all this other kind of stuff, but who wants to maintain all that? Now, who wants to maintain all that?
Yeah,
especially
well,
especially when it's being handed to you by someone you don't love. You know what I mean? Of course your children are going to look on everything that you
we
built
can all
as,
tell if you don't like it.
that's not how human nature works. You have a responsibility. Parents have a responsibility to be desirable people. You know what I mean? If you're, this is what comes with your type of thinking, where you're deserved your child's slave labor, whether you earned it or not. Whether you earned it or not, you get the prize. So that's what your level of thinking brings about, and that's
That's
how.
primogeniture. I do not support primogeniture. Sorry.
No, you support the parents getting the privilege in old age, whether they worked for it or not, and just forcing the children socially. Didn't matter if they were good parents, didn't matter if what they built was great, doesn't matter who they are. You have to take care of them. No, you have a responsibility. Why can't you? What's wrong with earning your children's respect? What's wrong with that?
Because well, we're not perfect. But the whole idea of respecting
Okay, but
our
there's
elders
plenty.
is because they have information that we may not be privy to. That's all. It's like they
Yeah,
were here
well,
first, and all things being equal, they would know more than we do, and they have lived through times that we
well, we
didn't.
don't even live like that anymore because all things being equal, it's no longer all things being equal. Old people no longer,
Okay, I mean,
you
if
know.
your idea is that you only respect people you like, then you're laying the way for charlatans and flatterers to get at you.
No, you not just like people who deserve it and earned it, not just
Okay,
oh
then
I
you need wise people to know who earned it and deserves it.
no, the child realizes whether their parent earns the respect or not.
Well, children are foolish. Young people are
No, I'm talking
foolish.
about adults. Once you become an adult, you're not. If your parents were not right, not just to you, but to society generally, and left behind a garbage dump war zone,
Okay, so
then
basically you're saying trash everything because you hate your
no,
parents. So
not
what are you
trash.
saying?
Well, I'm saying they put us in this position, but we can get
Okay,
ourselves
so
out of it.
okay, you
But that doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean that. You know, of course they deserve some disrespect. Of course they deserve some disrespect.
okay, so then what you're going to do
You know,
about
there's
it?
a saying like if the village doesn't raise the child will come and burn the village down, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening right now.
Okay, so and then the village is gone, and this is what you want to happen.
Well, you gotta go build a new village. It's time for a new village because
Okay, well, you need people to do this sort of thing.
well, you're only getting rid of the older generation.
Okay, so you
You're
dismiss everything that your parents and
no,
people
not
of their
everything,
generation.
Claire.
Okay,
Not
so
everything,
who
but
do you
they
admire?
obviously did it wrong. Why should we take advice from people who messed up
I'm
civilization? Why
not
should we?
I'm not saying take advice from everybody without obviously you have to decide which group
They all
or
did
which
it.
individuals. Okay, so
Not individuals. Collectively, they messed up. It wasn't one or two people messed up. It was the whole
okay,
civilization
just
messed
blame
up.
them forever and burn everything up and blow it up and that's it. I just don't see the wisdom of that.
Well, I didn't say burn it all up, but we don't need to maintain the civilization they built.
Okay, so what kind of civilization do you want to build?
Well, it could be something simpler that I don't need to be involved in 50 wars to maintain it all the time.
Okay,
You
so
know,
you support Trump because he seems to be saying he doesn't want a global empire, but it seems that his hand is being forced by all the neocons that he has, for some reason, allowed to take control of US foreign policy again. What is Lindsey Graham doing? He's just letting all the neocons do his work. So obviously he hasn't got the message, or he doesn't know what a neocon is just by looking at their history. Okay, we don't know what Trump is up to. But he did say, and I'm sure we all remember him saying that he doesn't want these endless wars. And what is he doing? It's like, fuck you, Ukraine. You're not getting any more of our money. It's going to stop now. And if the Europeans want to help Ukraine, it's on them. I mean, he could just say that, but for some reason he won't. And it's like, yeah, as far as America's concerned, we are. He could just say America's out of it, and anyone who any American, they don't have his approval, they don't have U.S. government approval, and they are to be considered terrorists, something like that. He could say something like that, but he doesn't. We don't know why. Maybe it is true about all American presidents. They all campaign in peace and govern in war. Maybe because they, I don't know, they're threatened. Maybe the CIA said, we'll just kill you and all your family if you don't do exactly as we tell you.
I don't believe the shit that the president is like held hostage by the deep state. I don't believe this shit. This is all. Who are these people? Why not name and shame these people? One thing I noticed that nobody ever names these people. None of them are named, and it's so convenient that like nothing ever leaks about who these people are. Nobody ever turns against the deep state. Nobody comes out and says, yes, I was part of it. And now it's like, it's just this forever black box that no information ever got escaped from it. And I don't believe that.
Okay, well, I mean, it would be someone in middle management, not the Tulsi Gabbard, she's now director of intelligence and shit like that, because she's not going to be there long. It will be somebody in middle management who's been there for 20 years, for example. They'll be the one who call the shots, because they'll be the ones
do you really think Tulsi Gabbard can't go into some middle management and say, stop what you're doing right now, I'm in charge?
I don't know. I mean, maybe she needs presidential approval or whatever, or maybe she just doesn't know. She hasn't been, working for them. She doesn't know the ins and outs and who's in charge. She doesn't know anything. She's just been parachuted in, and I guess she doesn't really know.
That's not how hierarchical organizations work like that. I mean, this just seems like paranoia, schizophrenic. The CIA is behind every single itty bitty last thing and has 1000% control. I just don't believe it. I don't believe
it. Okay,
where are the defectors from the deep state? Where are they?
Well, the CIA would control Western media. I mean, they
somebody
really would
at this point in the past 60, 70 years would have been involved in this so-called deep state and would have been a defector. There's defectors from all organizations. There would have been a defector at this point. If this deep state
maybe they did defect. I mean, are they going to publish their memoirs? Who's going to read it if it's not published? If it's not reviewed?
Well, if the president has this, if the president feels as though he's being threatened, I'm sure he would, showcase it. If I was a president and I was being threatened by the deep state, I would, I would publish the memoirs of somebody who, this is just, it's not Occam's razor. This is like it would take like a coincidence upon coincidence upon coincidence upon coincidence, to get to this. It's just unbelievable. It's not believable that, I believe that, the CIA has some power. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. I would never deny that. And I'm sure they do nefarious things, but I don't think they're like, oh, we have a lock on the president and can shoot him at any time if he doesn't do precisely what he says. I don't think, Donald Trump is going to bed in fear of the CIA every night.
I mean, I'm just speculating. Obviously, I don't know, but there has been a precedent for it, an ancient precedent called the Praetorian Guards, who routinely assassinated Roman emperors who didn't do what they wanted.
Okay, but that was the Roman Empire and was an emperor who was fucking retarded enough to, keep those guards around. But, we're not an empire.
What could he do? It's sort of like, I mean, what do you think is the point of a military dictatorship? The military take over because they are the muscle, right? If things get so bad that a military dictatorship becomes inevitable, then it's basically the muscle taking over, right? So it just means that I'm in charge just because I've got the guns and everything. When really it should be, I have authority because I'm the wisest, and you wise voters, you chose me, and oh yes, and God agrees with me. It has to be some sort of message like that. I'm just here because I was legally elected. Nobody questioned the election. No, nobody claimed it was rigged or not enough people did. Blah blah blah. But there's this idea of legitimacy. I mean, okay, yeah, okay. Let's imagine this outlandish example. Somebody from outer space just comes and takes over America, and he's this green man. I mean, he would have no legitimacy, would he?
Well, yes, if you're from outer space and you did all that, yes, you would.
Well, he would only have it would only have legitimacy in the sense that, well, I have superior technology, and I've got my army, and if you do anything, you're all dead. That would be a kind of legitimate, like, well, I'm in charge now. I don't care if you like me or not, but you have to do what I say, because if not, you will suffer the consequences. Which is, a bit different to God defends my divine right as absolute monarch over you. And the evidence is that the Pope supports me. Don't you, Popey? Well, now that the Pope is American, I guess something will be made of that.
Yeah, but he said bring in the migrants and all that.
Well, exactly. So he is obviously working on behalf of the anti-Trump people, right? So in a way, it's sort of clear Trump is wants to deport them, and there's this other section. So Trump can be saying a whole bunch of stuff about Christianity, couldn't he? Well, I would, because basically the deep state, and I believe that Pope Leo is a CIA appointment, has said, well, we're going to use Christianity to promote our agenda. And then we're going to get all these dumb people who want to be seen as white and middle class to fall in line. And this is what they're doing. All the people who want to be identified as white and middle class, they're into Christianity. And then Islam becomes a religion of the underdog. That's how things will divide, I think. I mean, no way is the CIA gonna, let the American Pope just sort of be himself and do popey things. He will be acting according to an agenda, and you know what it is already. He's saying let the migrants come, and then somebody recently said it's the Catholics who are to blame for all these migrants from Mexico and South America, because it was a Catholic church who said, oh, we're so lucky that they're all coming, and they're coming to Catholic church because they're Catholics. Right? And so even within the dissident right, there are divisions, because E. Michael Jones, who's Catholic and anti-Semitic, he's treading a thin line, isn't he? So on the one hand, he denies race, but he's the biggest. Well, he is the biggest anti-Semite of all. But and he does get advice to white nationalists, and he sensibly says white nationalists have no rights, but Catholics still have rights. And of course, he's cock-a-hoop that the current Pope is American, and he hopes, doubtless, that the Pope will, who is American, will do some good, because he can't help it being a Catholic, right? But the point is, Catholicism has failed. It's failed in Europe. It's going to fail in America, because you guys haven't got an established religion. And if you wanted to establish a religion, it wouldn't be Christianity, would it? I mean, can you establish a Church of America? And if you did, would anyone take it seriously? They'll just know you just, made it up yesterday. I mean, I guess it was called the Episcopalian Church, and now it's largely discredited and full of lesbians who hate Trump. So, I mean, we have to anticipate how things are going to pan out. And I'm saying there will be a religious divide, because, the powers that be have chosen an American Pope. And it's unthinkable that this American Pope won't be advancing some domestic agenda. And he's already, he's shown his cards. He's saying migrants come. Migrants come to the West. So what else has Trump to do if he's still capable of doing anything other than using Islam? And that's where we come in, Vincent.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, you saw the protests that are going on in Northern Ireland, right?
Well, of course, they'll it's an anti-migrant. Yeah, it's anti-migrant. What about
I don't know, Claire. I don't know. Maybe people who are about to rise up against Islam in the West. So I don't know how much people want to pander to Muslims right now because they're starting. Yes, I was really worried about Muslims taking over maybe 10 years ago, but now everyone's waking up and like lots of agitation against Islam. I don't think President Trump is just going to go get in bed with Islam right now.
Well, it would be a very bold move if he were minded to do so, but you see, he would change things forever. I mean, I'm sure I've mentioned to you Henry II, who all those centuries ago got fed up with being bossed around by the Pope and said in his communications with the Pope that, well, maybe I'm better off being Muslim or words to that effect. But anyway, obviously he didn't dare because, his subjects would probably rise up against him. And that was, a very real possibility, but not so now. So all he would have to do is control, American media and by extension, Western media. And here's your president speaking. This is what I hope he'd say. My attention has been drawn to something called secular Koranism. And I have here before me Vincent Bruno, who is America's most knowledgeable person on the subject. And he's gay, but he seems to know a lot about it. What's going on, Vincent?
What's going on, Vincent?
Yeah. Well, that's my ideal scenario. You explaining secular Koranism to
Trump.
Yes. And the world, of course. By extension.
Well, I think I already have with this blog spot. I've done as much for secular Koranism. I've done more for secular Koranism than anyone else besides you. So.
Yes, because of your curating tendencies. Have you had a look at the viewer numbers?
What do you mean by curating tendency? What do you mean by that?
Well, you do kind of curate things, don't you?
What does
you
curate
make notes
mean?
on your favorite subjects, and then you kind of put them in blogs, on all your.
What does curate mean? What does curate mean?
Like a curator of a museum, they decide how to organize the exhibits and
okay,
decide what to keep and what to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
you are a curator of cults.
Yes. I was just thinking about Mary Baker Eddy. They used to have these psychic warfare, but it was interesting. Do you know the Christian Scientists used to have these like psychic intimidations of people? But the thing is that the person had to know that they were trying to do it. So they would basically, advertise in the papers that they were doing psychic warfare against so-and-so. And
what does that mean?
Well, they have their malicious animal magnetism, right? Just thinking about someone negatively can hurt them. So the Christian Scientists would all get together and think about it about this person negatively in order to destroy them. So,
Oh, right, kind of group curse.
a group curse, group thinking. Well, more than a curse. See, that's the thing about Christian Science. It's not faith. It's not magic. It's science, right? So, yeah, and I would. It's just the
Does it
process of
work?
thinking.
Did it work?
I don't know. I think some people said it did work. Yeah, some people claim that they were under threat from Christian Science psychic warfare. Yes, yes, there were people who thought that.
Yeah, I mean, people can be very suggestible. It's like maybe if you just curse people who are already, about, not very well, then you're gonna, and if they die on their deathbed, how much credit can you claim for, you know, sending them on their way? But yeah, probably it's sort of, it's prayer is a kind of, well, I guess it's well, you can pray for anything. You can pray for bad things to happen to to people you hate, I guess. But I guess it serves a therapeutic effect that you're concentrating your mind on, wanting this thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean that is, I think, in a way, the point of prayer.
Somebody's
You
asking what
concentrate your mind.
someone's asking what secular Koranism is.
Yes, and I thought should I leave you to these things because you're so good at them?
Oh, is he still listening?
I don't know, but he's asked a whole bunch of questions.
Okay, why weren't we answering them? Hold on, let's see. Look at his. Oh, we should have. KR, are you still here? If you're still here, KR, are you still here?
I don't know. The viewing figures isn't looking great because it's saying 0 at the moment. But I have sent it to a lot of people, but for some reason it's not showing up. Never mind. We can still answer the questions in case he wants to come back. Secular Koranism is Sharia for non-Muslims, and it's scary to a lot of people. He's not really saying anything that. And he talks about social security. He's obviously in favour of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess, he sounds a decent person, caring about what happens to the, frail and elderly, whatever, when society breaks down. And that's why it's important to prevent it from breaking down. And obviously he's religious because he says without a just religion, there's nothing precious and worth holding on to. Well, we need the rule of law, basically. We need people to obey the law, and we hope the law is not an ass.
Hold on 1 second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it talks about the duty of care and all that. Well, in a failed state, that will all go. The vulnerable would be the first to be dead and buried. And eventually we will all be frail and vulnerable. And that's why I decided to address the problem of care and accommodation of the elderly, particularly those who have no children. And that will be quite a lot of them in the future. And therefore, we need to, yes, maybe have a virtue class of elderly people.
Claire, I think I'm going to go. I'm getting a bit tired. We've been on for over an hour.
Okay. thank you for the prompt. I don't think that there's anything. I mean, I think I made clear, after reading the pamphlet, that obviously there will be a difference between people the elderly who participate in the scheme and those who do not, and obviously their accommodation and care would reflect that. So I think that's fair enough. Thank you, Vincent.
Okay.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.